Thanks for entering the crypt with us. We're Bone Patrol. I'm Aaron.
This is Chris.
This is Tyler.
And today we've got a special guest with us. We got Jake, the Moonlit Ghost. Jake, how you doing?
Doing great. Yep. Shouting out my channel.
Yeah.
So I have a YouTube channel, the Moonlit Ghost. Check me out. It's just the Moonlit Ghost on YouTube. I talk about anything paranormal, mysterious, strange, and it's actually my goal to be as objective as possible. So I actually believe in the paranormal things, but I also think that probably like 80% of the stuff you see online is fake or it's hoaxed somehow. So I try to debunk as much as I can, and stuff that I can't maybe is legitimate. That's kind of my take on it.
Wait a second. You're telling me people lie on the internet?
Man, yes.
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
They do.
So for people who go over and check out your channel, like what kind of videos do you have up right now? What can they expect to see?
Yeah, so right now I have a really awesome one about Bigfoot. I break down a few Bigfoot videos. I have one on shadow people, which are like ghosts, but they're like more, like masses of darkness. And I have one breaking down kind of like humanoid creatures, which was pretty fun to make. So
Yeah. I've watched all Jake's videos. They're fantastic. My favorite was definitely the Bigfoot. I give it a 10 out of 10 on the Thickum scale.
Bigfoot's butt, baby.
Big boy alert.
And we actually have Jake on here today because he has been to the haunting we are discussing today. He has been there in person. He's got pictures, and he's got one heck of a story to tell us.
I'm excited.
I do, and I'm really excited to be here. It was quite the experience for sure.
Yeah. So today we're going over Myrtles Plantation. In 1796, a very famous and successful lawyer and deputy attorney general by the name of General David Bradford decided to build his very humble 8-bedroom home in Franceville, Louisiana. His very humble 8-bedroom home.
I mean, one man needs 8 bedrooms. I mean, he's got one for every day of the week and an extra because back then they couldn't count very well.
Are you telling are you telling me this dude lived alone?
Yeah, he lived all by himself.
This guy built himself to him, a humble house is an 8-bedroom house to himself.
Yeah?
So I guess he won't get cabin fever.
Yeah, not at all. So, as if the 8 bedrooms weren't enough, Bradford just about doubled the size of his home in the 1850s. So we're talking, he went from 8 bedrooms to himself to roughly 16. That's what he decided he needed to do.
I mean, housing for the ghosts, right? They need somewhere to sleep.
So his very spacious home was built on 600 acres of land, and at the time was known as Laurel Grove. Unknowns to General Bradford, his massive home would become one of the most haunted houses in the United States of America, known as the Myrtles Plantation. Jake, can you back up that claim?
Yeah, I when I went there, I wasn't like expecting to have any crazy experience. I was taking a lot of pictures. I was hoping to like catch something, but I had a really interesting experience that I'm looking forward to sharing here. So
Awesome. I'm glad that we actually have someone who can back that up and not just
Yeah.
random articles we read online that we believe in. So Myrtles Plantation is now the home of at least 12 different ghosts. And to any guest brave enough to pay the price to stay the night, which means, yes, you can go and stay the night there. You can go maybe get a haunting. You spend the night with one of these 12 ghosts in the 16 bedrooms.
Maybe share a bed with a ghost.
Yeah, is that extra? Is that an extra fee?
To share a ghost with, to share a bedroom with one of the ghosts?
Yeah, is that an extra fee? I'm wondering for a friend.
Well, Jake, did you stay the night or did you just do like a day tour?
So I didn't stay the night. I just did. I just stopped in for a day tour. But if you just YouTube, like people, like a lot of YouTubers go there and try to catch things. And like I've watched a lot of those videos, and I don't know. I mean, I've had a crazy experience there, and so part of me wants to believe like most of these channels. But I know a lot of these channels, if you YouTube them, are just like making crap up at the same time. But so I'm kind of split on that. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And would you want to go back and stay the night, or
I would actually, and that is one of my goals, especially to record for my channel, the Moonlit Ghost. I would love to go back and stay the night.
Yeah. Do you know if you stay the night, are you allowed to like walk around the house at night, or like do they kind of ask you to stay in your rooms?
I have so there's multiple like houses exterior to the main plantation, which also are supposedly haunted, that people have experiences in. I don't really know. I've looked online and you can rent out different rooms, and I think you can actually rent out the room in the primary house. I think people have done that, but I would have to do more research where you can actually go in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like most of the time you're going to be staying in external housing. I mean, it's still part of the like estate in the plantation, but probably not in the main.
Well, what I read was they're really strict about what you can bring in as well. Like I think they're very scared of conjuring up more evil than they want to deal with. So they're very strict on like people coming in, trying to like mess with the ghosts, conjure them up. So they don't allow much as
like Ouija boards and
right,
like
spiritual connection devices.
Yeah.
So
That's I mean, that makes sense to me. And I mean, this whole plantation is very interesting. It has quite the extensive history and has passed through the hands of a lot of owners. So after General David Bradford in the 1970s, the plantation was purchased by James and Frances Kermeen Myers, who they were the first ones to turn it into a bed and breakfast. Before James and Frances, though, purchased the estate, it, like we were talking about, it passed through several different owners, which consisted of a lot of deaths on the property, trapping the spirits, creating all these hauntings, and the 12 ghosts that they claim live at this bed and breakfast now. So let's take a step back into the 19th century and see what kind of twisted history this house has behind it, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, that was a good time period, right? Lots of hatred in the U.S. People not getting along. That can cause a lot of angry energy to get stuck in a house.
Well, so I mean, what does it take for a spirit to be like trapped to a house and not move on?
As I see it, so I mean, I think it's a little bit up for interpretation, but as I see it, it's how much energy you get in one place. So like grandma sits in her rocking chair for the last 20 years of her life, that rocking chair is going to move when she dies because so much energy was put into that. So if you were to get hit in the back of the head with a frying pan really hard in your kitchen, I think your spirit will get stuck in the kitchen until it gets that release and you move on.
So if I run around the house every day, 24/7, naked, you're saying my energy is glued to that house?
I mean, yeah, sure. That's how I see it.
I mean, is energy, can that also be from strong emotional, so anger?
Yeah.
Could it be like happiness? So
Yeah.
Could you have a happy ghost?
Yeah, not all ghosts are mean. There's children's ghosts that are like playful.
Think of Casper.
Yes.
I think generally what you guys are saying is correct. I mean, obviously, like, we can't know for sure, but there are I mean, the most famous hauntings in the world, like those are kind of the all like the things that make sense, and that what you see there is that there was like a crazy, like a lot of murders or a lot of terrible thing or high emotions. You see things like this around like those old houses, like Civil War battlegrounds where people were like in suffering and in pain and stuff like that. You see these type of experiences, whereas usually like newer houses, if somebody just like dies peacefully in a newer house, it doesn't tend to become haunted. I don't know, but it's just kind of, that seems right. There has to be a lot of energy surrounding it.
So that's why we don't have ghosts with like Janowskis on and AirPods.
iPod, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's a reason why it seems that most of these houses that we claim are haunted are from generally like a pretty similar time period, but not so much in the recent years?
Yeah, I would assume so, just because, I mean, in reality, we have it so much easier, like so much less suffering. And not for everybody, you can't speak for everybody, obviously, but it's so much easier. Like, I don't have to worry about these odd diseases or just getting shot because I disagree with someone.
Yeah, and I think also one thing is they really didn't move around back then. I mean, like nowadays people are moving like every like 1 year, and like
it's hard to have like a lot of investment in one area. So if I could just add something in here. So I've been looking into this stuff for a long time, and there's like different types of obvious like spirit energy and entities and different things like that. But there are like independent, like intelligent entities. They're more like kind of like poltergeists who are actually you can interact with, who seem to be moving intelligently and stuff like that. But there are also like a lot of reports of ghosts seem to be kind of replaying like things that they did when they were alive, and it's almost as if the earth is actually just has an imprint of that scenario playing out. It's like repeating itself. And so I don't know if I would actually think that in those instances they would be any more like intelligent or sentient than like Tom Cruise in like a movie. Like watching a movie. It's kind of a funny analogy, but you know what I mean. Like you're watching a movie, like is the actor in the movie like sentient? Like they were when they filmed the movie, but it does seem to be like something with energy when there's something high conflict or high energy that perhaps imprints those moments in greater detail and definition in certain areas of the world.
And for a lot of these ghosts, that moment they're replaying, is it typically their death or is it random? Do you know much?
I don't really. I mean, obviously we can't really know for sure, but I think maybe sometimes it's their death, but I think it could just be maybe days leading up to their death or different things like that. But who really knows?
My high energy that's gonna get left behind is gonna be my anger when I play Call of Duty. You're gonna hear a lot of your mom jokes floating around the Xbox.
Future of ghosts, teenage kids like throwing their controllers at the TV.
Yeah. So going with the history of this house and all the hands it passed down through. So when the house was first built in 1796, General Bradford lived in the 8-bedroom home by himself, which we learned from Christopher. Thank you. I did not know that. That is absolutely insane to me still. But at this time, the Whiskey Rebellion was in full effect and tensions were super high, especially in this area.
Negative energy.
And General Bradshaw was one of the radical leaders who proposed that they resist the taxes that were being put on whiskey. And his suggestion was, of course, violence. We need to violently fight against these unjust taxes on our favorite all-American drink, whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, right now, my favorite drink is Coca-Cola, and anytime Aaron tries to take a sip, I slap him.
Yeah.
You just gotta set the
Try
rules.
to take my tax, I get hit. The radical attack on the federal government got Bradshaw in a ton of legal trouble, but he got really lucky because President John Adams decided to pardon him from his involvement in the rebellion. And also, he was kind of just like let go and said, you know what? It's fine.
He's like, look, man, I'll pay the tax I didn't pay. Just let me go.
After being pardoned, Bradshaw decided to bring his wife, Elizabeth, and his 5 children from Pennsylvania to the plantation. And then a few years later, in 1808, Bradford passed away. He left his widowed wife, Elizabeth, the complete estate. Elizabeth ran the plantation until 1817, when she decided to pass the estate down to one of David Bradford's favorite students, who also doubled as their son-in-law. So Clark Woodruff married the Bradford's daughter, Sarah, and Clark and Sarah had 3 children together. And then in 1823 and in 1824, 2 of their children and Sarah passed away from yellow fever, so did Bradford die in the estate?
I couldn't find record that he died in the estate.
So for all we can tell, these are the first 3 recorded deaths in the estate.
As far as we can tell, yeah. First 3 deaths. The 2 children died in the estate. Bradford, I couldn't find anything on.
Well, and Sarah?
Oh, yeah, Sarah. I think all 3 of them did.
So we just got our first 3 deaths in the estate in a long history of deaths. Just 7 years after the death of Woodruff's 2 children, Elizabeth passed away in 1831. Clearly sick of seeing everybody they know die in the house, Clark decided him and his last daughter were going to leave the estate, and they left it to the caretaker, and they got the heck out of town. In 1834, Clark was able to sell the estate to Ruffin Gray Sterling and his wife, Mary Cobb Sterling. The Sterlings renovated the entire place, nearly doubling the size of the estate once again. So we up to like 36 rooms pretty much.
I think it ended up doubling the size, but only, I think it gets to 22 bedrooms.
Oh, just 22 bedrooms?
Yeah,
so
but
still
it's
very modest.
Yeah,
A nice,
reasonable
humble house.
Yeah, humble beginnings, right?
Yeah, of course. The Sterling's new 22-bedroom home got furnished with furniture imported from Europe, and during this time, the estate changed its name from Laurel Grove to Myrtles Plantation, as we all know today. In 1854, Ruffin passed away, leaving the plantation to his wife, Mary, completely.
What's up with all these dudes dying and leaving a haunted house to their wives? That seems like awful.
So at this point, our body count is up to 5. We don't know how many of them died in the estate, but at least 5 people who had connection to the estate are now dead, right?
And these are confirmed deaths, right?
These are confirmed deaths.
Yeah, confirmed death. I think there's only 3 that are confirmed in the house.
So 3 in the house, but 2 died while owning the estate. Yeah. Okay. During the Civil War, the plantation got robbed on several occasions, completely stripping it of all of its furniture and anything expensive that was in the house. Well aware she needed help, Mary Sterling hired William Drew Winter to help manage the estate as her lawyer and agent. Winters married Sterling's daughter, going on to have 6 children, but one of them... Do I need to say that again?
No, you're good. I just think it's funny that they just keep marrying their daughters, and it's like this reoccurring cycle of misery.
It's basically like keeping it in the family.
It's just like the story doesn't change that much from who owns it.
No, it just stays in the family. They have kids, somebody dies, passes on to the family, they get freaked out, try to sell it. Yeah. So they go on to have 6 children, but one of them died at the age of 3 to typhoid fever. Now our body count's up to 6. As it being Louisiana in the Civil War, there were a lot of things going on. The economy was not doing hot, and then the South tried to create their Confederate currency. After the South lost the war, anybody who had relied on that Confederate dollar was now completely bankrupt and had nothing left to their name, at least money-wise, and that was the same with this family. They completely relied on Confederate currency, and once again, after rebuilding from nothing, they were stripped of everything they owned and had nothing.
So you're telling me if me and Tyler start trading biscuits as currency, I can't go to Walmart and use biscuits to buy my drinks?
Only during the Biscuit Confederacy, but once that's done. So they, realizing they have nothing left of their name, they sell the house in 1868, but they were able to save up a few pennies and repurchase the house 2 years later. 3 years after getting their home back, William Winters was shot on the porch of his own home. Legend has it that Winters fell to the ground, crawled into his home, and started crawling up the large staircase there is in the front hall, Jake.
Yeah. You open the doors and there's the main room. I guess It's not really a hallway. It's like the main area, and then you just walk a little ways and you can just go up the steps. But I think this is a confirmed story, right? It's not necessarily.
I think the only part of it that is a legend or not confirmed is the fact that he crawled up the stairs. It was confirmed he was shot and killed, but they don't know for sure he crawled up the stairs.
As legend has it, though, he crawled into the house, crawled up the stairs, and died on the 17th step of the staircase.
What an unfortunate series of events. First off, you joined the wrong part of the war, so you went bankrupt when it went south, when it didn't go south, and then you try to go buy the house, and then you just get shot. Yeah. That sucks.
Well, our body count is now up to 7 in this darn house.
Was there historical evidence to suggest why he got shot? Because could anybody find that out?
They don't even know who shot him. There were some guesses, but they could never actually pin it on anybody.
When I can't remember what it was, but when I took the tour, I think it was Miss Hess, right? Miss Hester?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when I actually took the tour, they had some educated guesses as to why. It was some vengeance deal or something like that.
I don't remember exactly the phrase, but apparently some dude rolls up on a horse and says something like, "I've got a bone to pick with you," or something, right? I don't know exactly what he said, and then he just shot him and then left.
What kind of bone, though?
Bone patrol.
Oh, okay.
Thigh bone.
So after Winters dies, bringing her body count up to 7, Mary Sterling, her daughter, and her daughter's children all stay together in the house. In 1878, Mary Sterling's daughter passed away, body count up to 8, with Mary herself following close behind just 2 years later in 1880, body count up to 9.
And it always seems to be 2 years apart between the mother and the daughters, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. After Mary and her daughter passed away, the property was passed down to their oldest son, Stephen.
However you say his name.
The property was so deep in debt once again Stephen just sold it. It went through several different owners who all just sold it to the next until 1891 when Harrison William purchased the estate. Harrison held onto the property for 9 years with 0 casualties. And we don't really know. I mean, did he do something special? Like, he managed to somehow break this curse of people just constantly dying in this house.
Did he bring his family? Or is it just him again? Because when Bradford lived there by himself, he only got himself into political trouble.
But as soon as he brought his family into it,
Yeah.
that could be part of it. Harrison ended up selling the house to Marjorie Munson, who was one of the first to express concerns of odd activity going on in the house. So up until this date, we really haven't had any records of anyone complaining about paranormal activity.
Yeah, but I mean, like, everyone knows back then, they just hung out with ghosts anyways. They were used to it. So what was there to complain about?
People just hung out with ghosts during the Civil War period?
Yeah, they had several parties. Like,
I mean, there's so many pictures where it's like, can you see the ghost in the picture? Or there's like, yeah, well, and the pterodactyl they found. They obviously weren't fazed by anything.
yeah, there's so much history in the Civil War that just happens.
So under Marjorie's ownership of the house is when the ghost stories really, really start to get some reputation behind them. And then in the 70s, the house bounced between owners until it landed into the hands of James and Frances Kermain Myers. James and Frances began to run their house as the bed and breakfast, as mentioned before. Frances, at this point, starts noticing odd activity as well and wrote it was the most haunted house in America. That's a bold claim.
That's like me saying Chris is the coolest dude in America.
I mean, honestly, how many houses in America could this dude possibly have visited?
7.
Like, you think about it, you don't visit that many houses in your entire life.
7?
In compared to how many houses
guess.
are out there, like, and just to claim that this one is the most haunted house in America.
Well, here's the thing. If you have a haunted house, like, you know it's haunted, you have no doubts about it, and you're like, man, I can make a buck off of this, you're gonna say it's the most haunted house.
Exactly, yeah.
As of today, the plantation is run by John and Tita Moss, who still open the house to ghost tours and overnight stays. People come from all around the world to experience one of the most haunted locations in America. It's from whenever he claimed that, it's kind of just stuck and people go with it. Beyond Winters being shot on the front porch and 2 of the Woodruff's children dying of yellow fever, there doesn't seem to be enough energy trapped here to consider it one of the most haunted places in America, honestly, right?
Well, actually, so that it is a fact that those 2 children did die, but I believe that there is a legend surrounding an alternative way that they did die, right? That was...
Is it the Legend of Chloe?
Yeah, the Legend of Chloe.
Yeah.
How she had like a beef with that dude and was gonna poison him, and instead of him actually eating the cake, the children ate it, right?
Yeah, so Chloe, so she was a slave, and she would eavesdrop on, what's his name? So Woodruff?
It was Winters, wasn't it?
Oh, Winters. So it was Winters, and then Winters caught her, and he cut off her left ear, and so she got, really angry about that, and so she baked a cake, and I don't know what poison she used, but it ended up killing the mom and then the 2 daughters.
Everybody that she did, like, she just wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
So it kind of backfired really bad.
Well, why I heard that she went about this was, I mean, yeah, he cut off her ear, but he was kind of using her, obviously. I mean, she was a slave, but like, he was having an affair with her, and she obviously couldn't do anything about it, and she was nervous that their relationship was going downhill, so she would eavesdrop, so that way if he was complaining about anything, she could fix it.
That would have a whole lot of energy behind it.
Yeah. And then if I remember right, so that plan backfired horribly, and then he actually ended up hanging Chloe.
Oh, dang.
Right after that, out in front of the
house. That's a lot of
Yeah.
energy. Okay. Well, if that's the case, I mean, that seems at least a lot more likely, looking at ghosts anyways, to explain having so many hauntings.
Yeah.
Another explanation is that the house is, of course, built on an Indian burial ground of the Tunica peoples. The Tunica peoples lived in Mississippi. They lived in the upper Mississippi Valley, and then they were run out of there to the lower valley, and then run out again, and they eventually ended up in Louisiana. And we all know kind of what happened to a lot of the Indians, especially in the southern states.
Yeah, they weren't well liked.
Well, Tyler was pointing out to me before we came and recorded that he was viewing a map of the trail that they took as they were being pushed out of their homes. And oddly enough, it passes through the area of the plantation.
Yeah. So typically when people claim that their property is built on an Indian burial ground, I kind of just laugh to myself. But in this very specific case, they did pass through the
general
property.
area.
Yeah, they were there. So it does seem at least a little more
plausible.
More plausible that they could legitimately be built either on or close to an Indian burial ground.
Well, at the very least, there could be people who were, when they were getting pushed out, died along the journey because it didn't sound like they got any rest. They were just going.
What's always interesting to me, though, I mean, we have ground-piercing radar capability at this point. Can we just, check?
That's one of the things on the list you can't bring in. No Ouija boards, no radars.
Ground-piercing radar equipment.
Sir, what is this? It's a CPAP machine. I need it
to breathe.
Well, speaking of that, honestly, I don't know, if I was independently wealthy, even if 1% of the world's millionaires decided to solve all these weird ghosts, UFOs, and Bigfoot, it could just be done. People have enough money to just travel the world and do anything they want to do, but literally just spend $100,000 on trail cams and just inundate a forest with those things and find Bigfoot, for crying out loud, and do the same thing with ghosts.
Yeah,
it really bothers me, and actually that's why one of the motivations why I started the Moonlit Ghost is because I really want to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So they claim, it's been claimed there's been 10 murders that have taken place on the plantation. The only documented confirmed murder was that of Winters. So they say there's 12 ghosts. Our count ends up around maybe the possibility of 9.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And in an Indian burial ground, supposedly.
And if that's the case, that could really jack up those numbers.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many ghosts there may or may not be, weird things do happen here. People do capture a lot of footage, photos, and everyone who goes there, I mean, like Jake was saying, you can go online and watch countless videos. People have stories, whether or not you believe them is a whole other thing, but a lot of stuff happens there.
So there's at least one confirmed ghost. So at the very least, one dude just running amok.
Winters.
Hopefully he's not running naked.
I mean, if you ask me, there's 2 confirmed ghosts because I saw Mary Catherine Cobb Sterling.
Ooh, hold up.
Ooh, spicy.
Hold up. All right, Jake, you can't just leave us on that. What happened? Because that's the history of the Myrtles Plantation, and now we're getting into why we're here.
Yeah.
Your story.
So, okay, a few years ago, I don't know, I honestly don't remember. So, either 2015 or 2016, I was traveling the States, and I stopped in at the Myrtles Plantation, and I wasn't, at the time, I had just, I had heard of it before, but I was just Googling, interesting places to visit in the South, and I thought, I want to check this place out, and I stopped in, and it was during a lull. There was nobody around. There was one person in the gift shop, and there was 2 other people there. And so I was just sign me up for the next tour. And so we went on the tour, and it was literally just me and 2 other people on the tour, who were in the same family. It was a couple from Oregon. I don't know why I remember that, but and so it was us 3 on the tour, and it was Miss Hester, who gave the tour, and you could see her. Ghost Adventures did a thing on it. They talked with her about it and all that stuff. And so we went into the main area, and from what I understand, I don't know if this is what they do all the time, but from what I understand is that they keep the main house locked down, so nobody's allowed in there unless it's for maintenance purposes, or they're giving a tour, or I guess maybe you can rent a house or rent a room in there. I'm not really sure about that part, but while they're doing the tour, nobody's allowed in there except for the people taking the tour. And so they unlocked the door, and we went in, and then they actually lock the door behind them so nobody can get in while the tour is. So it's locked, you go in, they lock it again. And we're in the main room, and they talk about the mirror there, and where a lot of people like take pictures of it and see people in the mirror, or like apparitions or whatnot. And she's talking about all the legends and kind of the stuff that you guys have gone over. And and I'm obviously just on my phone. I'm taking tons of pictures. And we start moving into the next room, and the other two people on the tour move into the next room. Miss Hester, I believe, it's been a while, I believe she follows them in, and I'm the only one left in the main room. And so at this point, I don't really know how to share the story, because at this point I could just say, and then I finished the tour, and then it was really interesting.
I met a couple from Oregon.
and finished the tours, learned a lot about the plantation, and I got in my car and I moved on. So I was literally like a couple states away, because I was just driving through the United States, and I was looking on my phone, and I was just like scrolling through all the pictures I took. And I saw this weird thing in one of the photos in the main room that I took. And to this day, I don't know what it is. There's a couple theories about what like people think it is. Like, it might be my finger, but it doesn't really look like my finger, like obscuring the photo, but I can't really tell what it is. All I know is that it is definitely not, it wasn't any other person on the tour. The other people in the tour were in the completely different room where I was at. So there's this anomaly that I was looking at, but what it reminded me of, it looked like kind of like a white, like shawl, like a dress kind of thing. And it looks like there's tassels at the bottom. And as soon as I saw that, I was in my car, and as soon as I saw that picture, like, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a flood of memories came over me, and I was like, my jaw dropped, because as soon as I saw that picture, I had like legitimate, real, like an experience just come back to me, and I knew it was real. Like, it wasn't something I imagined or made up. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so now we can go back to where we were in that primary room, and this is the strangest thing. I was taking pictures. The two other people on the tour, and Miss Hester, I believe, walked into the other room, and so they're right to my left, and I'm standing right in front of the staircase that I think Mr. Winters went up and supposedly died on those stairs. And I'm standing right in front of that staircase taking pictures, and I'm the only one in the primary room, and I'm taking pictures, and it's like my thumb is like right over the button to take a picture, and I look forward towards the main doors that we walked in, and I legitimately see a woman, not like see-through or like anything like that, like a full-on, like, tangible woman in a white dress, with like a white kind of hat thing on, and it's like I'm literally standing there looking at her, and my hand is over the take a picture button, but I just didn't do it. And I just did not take the picture. And the craziest thing about that is I have spent so much time trying to think what was that? Like, is the Myrtles Plantation literally like trying to like Scooby-Doo people? Like, are they hiring like actors to like walk through and like scare people? But the craziest thing about that is, and you can see in one of these pictures that I took, that there is a piano in front of the door underneath the staircase. But when I saw this woman actually walked out of that door, and when I was looking at her, there was no piano. It was just not there. And what she was doing, she walked out that door, and she was fiddling with like keys in her hand, and she went to the front door, and she was like, I don't know if she was trying to lock the door or unlock it and get out or open it or whatever, but she was like pulling on the door handle. And another really crazy thing about that experience is that when I was watching it, I didn't think it was weird. I did not even think. I was there with the purpose to find like a ghost, to like catch something on camera, but as soon as it, like, I don't know, it like interferes, like I'm not even kidding, like it literally interfered with like my brain waves, because like I was like, ghost, I'm trying to find a ghost, and then I saw her, And it was so surreal that I did not even, I just stopped taking pictures, and I just didn't think it was weird. And the craziest thing looking back on this is that I just saw her. She was maybe 15 feet away from me, and she was literally making audible noise too. And I remember I looked over to the tour guide, Miss Hester, and the two other people in the room, and they were in the next room over, and I looked over there. Miss Hester looked at me, and she had this weird look on her face. She heard it. She heard the noise. She heard the door rattling. And I looked at her, and she had this weird look, and she walked, I started walking into the room where they were, because I didn't think it was weird, and she walked past me. We literally passed each other in the doorway. So I went into the room they were in, and she went back to where I was standing. And then I turned around and looked at her, and I saw her do this. She looked out, and she just shrugged her shoulders and looked back at me and continued to give the tour. It was bizarre. It was the weirdest thing. And then after that, like, we just finished the tour, and it was really, really interesting. And then like a day later, when I was like in a different state, I had all of that come back to me. So I watched that Ghost Adventures thing, and there was a moment in that scene. So let me just give you my brief thoughts on Ghost Adventures. So I truly want Ghost Adventures to be like a legitimate source. Like they're honest. Yeah. I truly do. But like, I think if you have like their like if you are in a position like them, and you have like producers, they're on the Discovery Channel, right?
I think it's Travel Channel.
Yeah.
And you have like these people, like imagine being in their position to where it's your job to like ghost hunt, but if you like go somewhere and you legitimately don't capture anything, there has to be pressure on them to like make it entertaining. And I can't imagine that there's no times where they don't like exaggerate the truth to make something more entertaining. But when I was watching it, there were a few connections that I wanted to make. Like there was a moment in that episode where literally the door was rattling. All right. Like, and I was like, that's exactly, if I did not see like the actual woman standing there, that's what the door would look like. It was just rattling. I don't think it was the actually outside door. I think it was a door inside, and they had a camera on the other side. And that's just a point that I thought. It was like, that's exactly what I would have seen had I not actually seen Mary Catherine Cobb Sterling there. And also they like ran around and checked the camera, and their camera malfunctions too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think that like there is something about this. Maybe we really are like seeing like because of the energy or whatever. I don't know for sure if this legitimately is like we are looking at like sentient interacting with intelligent creatures, but it might be like we're actually looking back in time and seeing these different things. But there's some effect or something where like cameras just like don't work, because I've seen when that happened, and like it interfered with my mind to like take a picture, and it like shut their camera off, and like it's just bizarre. Like I don't know. Like I really, if I hadn't seen that anomalous picture on my phone, I probably would not even have remembered that I saw this thing.
Speaking of which, we'll show a picture of his picture.
Yeah.
We'll show his picture.
And I just, it was just so bizarre. So I wanted to, I've got a few notes here. So that was the main story, right?
Right. Also, side note, if you're interested in seeing the Ghost Adventures episode, if you have Hulu, it's on there. Whatever you watch it on, it's season 9, episode 2. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is a really good episode.
Real quick too. So I guess right, you're thinking as well. So let's say in that situation where you saw the lady standing there at the door, do you think even if you had pressed capture to take that picture, in your honest opinion, do you think it just something would have happened regardless, and you still would have had that picture? Or
I honestly have no idea what would have happened, but I remember you guys joking a couple episodes back on your podcast. You're talking about like I think it was the one where there was like a ghost like slamming doors and things like that. And one of you joked about like punching that ghost.
That was me.
Oh, okay.
I just told him it wasn't possible.
And like I don't know at what point that I had this thought, whether I actually had the thought there when I was looking at this woman, or if I had it after the fact. But I wondered that like if this was so like tangible, like I had the thought like, what if I just walked up and like touched her, and like I feel like I probably would have been transported back in time to like, and I would just like poof, like I would have like appeared like there, like
No,
like freaked out.
legitimate. Like you've all seen Harry Potter, like how they can pull out their memories and like jump back into them. Like you could like be part of whatever they're playing through, at least for a moment.
Which kind of like plays into this whole. I don't know if you guys are familiar with. Oh crap, I forgot his name. But there's this guy who David Paulides. Have you ever heard of him? No. You guys should really research David Paulides. He does a lot of research on like people who go missing under very mysterious circumstances, especially in like wilderness areas or national parks.
I guarantee Max knows all about him, and he's not here today.
Oh dang!
Yeah.
Dang it. But like he does a lot of.
Max totally does. I have talked to Max about this. Really? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. I got really excited there.
But anyway, so there's like a lot of different reasons. These mysterious cases of missing people, like he doesn't just research just any random person, but he specifically looks into people who fit like a very specific criteria of how they went missing. And like legitimately people like, not necessarily him, but like other people like hypothesize that like they're like just falling into like wormholes that appear and like different things like this. Or like I don't really know like how much proof or evidence there is, but I kind of, I know that I saw this woman, and like I was like basically looking back in time because there was no piano there. It's like, and from that point, like I can like stand on that point like solidly. And at that point, it's like, well, if I'm talking to somebody about this, it sounds like I'm crazy. But like for me personally, it's like it's not that big of a leap to take. Like if I'm literally looking back in time, like what does that actually mean for the nature of like this world and this universe, and like what can actually happen? And it's just so bizarre. Like there's so many weird things, and I have a few side notes that I would like to share with you guys and get your guys' thoughts on this.
Real quick, I fully believe ghosts are tangible enough that you can, like, if they present themselves to you, you could grab them. Because I have a ghost story where me and a group of friends went to this location where there's a haunted restaurant. It's called Leslie's Family Tree, which I'd love to talk about.
We'll do an episode on it for sure.
But one of the people in our group, me and my wife know her pretty well. She, at least to our knowledge, she would have no reason to lie about this. But we're sitting there with the group, and she gets scratched, and like she's like, my back kind of burns. And so we step outside as a group and we check it out, and when we take a picture of it and show her the scratch, she just started bawling. Like, so I think they're very real.
Well,
like
this was
that,
like
in
a
that
close
sense.
friend. Like this isn't somebody who had any reason to team up with the people at the cafe and like try to goof you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like she was literally here the other day and we were hanging out.
Yeah.
And so like there are like a lot of people do report stuff like that, but when it happens to somebody like that you're close to, and it's like, this isn't like, they're not making this up, like it's crazy, like it's mind altering. It's like,
well, with ghosts, with supernatural experiences, no matter how much you believe in it, there's the next step you're always a little bit skeptical about until you experience it, and then you go back and tell everyone, and everyone's just like, okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, me and Christopher have an experience we won't go over right now. We'll definitely do an episode, and it's actually it's a place we want to visit together. We want to go there and do an on-site investigation with you there. But when we went to Thistle, with the footsteps on water, we can talk to you about it after. It was, until you experience something like that, it's so easy to just brush every ghost story you hear. It's like, there's an explanation. But when you experience something that you cannot explain but happened,
well, it's just like, it sounds so dumb when you try to when someone tries to explain it to you. You're just like, and all my cereal was gone, and they're just like, okay, whatever.
Well, yeah, and it's so true, because outside of like ghost friends and like family, like this is the first time I've really like shared this story, and now it's going out to like the world. So I wrote a little bit about it on my blog when I was traveling, but it's like, you do, like, people, I'm sure that people have like legitimate paranormal experiences like often, like all the time, but they're nervous or too scared to talk about them, because it sounds like you're crazy. And like, and it's like, who's gonna believe me? And it's like, why would I even put myself out there if nobody's gonna believe me? But
if you are feeling that way, reach out to us. We want to hear the stories.
We'll hold supernatural therapy sessions.
And if you reach out to us, we're not going to mock your story like we do most of the things we read. We'll take it seriously.
I won't take it seriously.
You guys are our friends.
you could also reach out to the Moonlit Ghost.
He may debunk you though, so careful.
Yeah, we don't look that deep. We just read the story.
I'll take you seriously until I can see like the string you're using to move the bottle.
What he's getting at, if you're trying to trick him, he's gonna find out.
Yeah, but for the most part, like I try to like be open-minded as much as I can, but there are some like obvious giveaways and like, but yeah. I have a couple kind of tangential things that tie into this that I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on.
Yeah, for sure.
So I told you that I'll try to be quick about it.
No, don't worry about it. We're good.
I told you that like when I saw this woman standing there, it's like it's like my brain switched completely. It's like I was there to like find like paranormal things or weird things, and then when I saw it, it's like maybe like a good example is like a deer in headlights. It's like, you know what's there, like you're seeing it, but it like switches something in your brain that you don't think about it, and it's weird. So I actually in recent times, a little bit ago, I read this book by I think he's a neurosurgeon. He was raised in India, so he has background in like Indian religion and that type of stuff like this, but he got his PhD in medicine, in Western medicine. And so he was able to actually group, like have this interesting synthesis of like ideas. And he is credited for finding an empirical evidence to show why phantom limb syndrome occurs. When people, for those who don't know what that is, it's if you are, an amputee. A lot of amputees will claim to feel their limbs even though they're not there.
Well, I mean, there's the classic YouTube prank where what they'll do is have you put your hand on a table and then have the fake hand on the other side of the table, and they'll brush both of the hands with a brush.
They'll put a wall in between the fake arm and your actual arm, so you can't see your actual other arm.
Yeah, and they pretty much give your real hand a sensation in sync with the fake hand, and you believe you can feel it. So it's something similar.
Yeah, it's something similar. And so that it is a YouTube prank, but that actually stems from like actual medical.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Ear neurons. Yeah.
But like, so I won't necessarily go into all the reasons why he was able to do that. But part of that book that he wrote, so he wrote a book called Phantoms in the Brain. It's an amazing book, by the way. Like, check it out, Phantoms in the Brain by Dr. Ramachandran. But one thing that he points out is he works with stroke victims, and I don't know how familiar you are with stroke victims, but a lot of times it's not that they're blind, it's just that like they don't process information like on their left side. And he did this experiment. I don't know if it was him. I think it was him, but it's been other people in the medical community. But he did this experiment where they will show pictures of houses, like nice houses, to the people who are afflicted with this issue. And some of the houses they will show them will like the house will look fine on the right side, but on the left side it will be like on fire. And they'll ask them, do you see anything wrong with this house, just to verify that there is something really going on. And a lot of times they'll say, no, I don't see anything wrong with the house, it looks fine to me. But then they'll ask them like a follow-up question, and they'll ask them, which house would you like to move into? And almost every single time they will always choose the house that's not on fire. So it's like they are not processing on a conscious level that there's something wrong with the house, but there is something internally that is just like driving them to not want to be in the house that's on fire, even though they're not consciously processing it. Which to me, like I look into that, and those are like real things that we can understand about the nature of the way our minds work and the way our brains work. And when I try to like parallel what I know about that type of stuff with like this experience, it's like, I think, hear me out here, what if we're just always seeing ghosts, like all the time, but we just don't ever remember it, ever? And that sounds so funny. Like when I say that, when I think about that, it's like we're just interacting with ghosts. It's hilarious, but like at the same time, that really could be how it is. And it's so bizarre because I wouldn't have remembered it unless there was like this like reminder of something that brought it back. And it's just crazy to me.
Well, it's funny that you bring this up because me and Aaron have a story in our place of work where this lady walked into the store who was like super pale, old-timey clothing, and there was other customers in our place of work that we were ringing them up, helping them out.
Well, when he says old-timey clothing, we're not talking about like it looks like somebody went and like got some clothes made because they were an actor, to try to fit a certain time. They look like these were clothes from the 1800s that she was wearing at the time.
And when she walks in, I like get up out of my seat and like, hey, how can I help you? And she just kind of like stares at me for a second, and I'm just like, what the freak? And everybody in the store, all the customers, Aaron, turn and look at her and just stare, and she doesn't say a word, and she just leaves. And then everybody just kind of goes back, and like one person was like, that was kind of weird.
So she leaves the store. And there was probably a good like 10 seconds where nobody in the store. We're talking, it's me, Christopher, and there's 3 customers in there. And no one says anything. And everyone's just standing there. And then one person goes, well, that was strange. And everyone goes,
and then it just carried on. It was like how you said your brain just didn't take the picture. Everyone just stopped. It was really weird.
Where did you say that was at?
It was at our work.
Oh, okay.
So batteries plus.
Yeah. It's so weird. I have one more thing, and I actually have an idea that I've been thinking about ever since this happened to implement a new way to ghost hunt. And I actually believe that I think that this could be something. Well, I won't say like. I don't know what I'll say about it. Let me just tell you what it is. But like I like everybody, like people try to like find like different ways to like prove that ghosts are real, like with EVPs and like spirit boxes and different things like this, and other like techniques like putting a flashlight, like trying to communicate with ghosts through like flashlights.
Yeah, good showmanship. It's great.
Yeah. So I have I haven't had the means to actually try this yet, but so like I said, when I went to Myrtles Plantation, I was traveling around the United States. Previously in my travels, I stopped in at I think it's the Boston Science Museum. It's like a really, really big science museum in the United States. And what I saw for the first time something called a cloud chamber. And a cloud chamber is it's a chamber that allows you to see subatomic particles. You don't see the subatomic particles, you see the tracks that they leave, and they show up like little poofs of like clouds, and it's really fascinating. It's actually really cool. And I actually got home from my trip, and I built one of these things because it's pretty easy to build actually. You could do it for relatively cheap, but ever since like I had that experience with the cloud chamber, and I've built my own one, and that experience with Mary Catherine Cobb Sterling, it's like been playing in my mind. And this happened maybe 4 something years ago. So remember how we talked about like this could potentially be, we could be looking back in time. Mm-hmm. So at any given moment, like if you have a cloud chamber in front of you, I'll spare you the details of how to make it, but it's just suffice to say, like you can make this chamber, and what happens is that the subatomic particles that are all around us all the time, when they fly through this chamber, they interact with the molecules inside the chamber to such a way that it leaves a streak through the chamber, and you can see the path. And if they collide with other particles, it's like ping pong. It's like you see like these cool like streaks. And what I propose that somebody should do, if not me or us, somebody else, and I'm fine with putting this out there if anybody wants to try this, just you heard it here first on the Bone Patrol podcast. Build a really nice cloud chamber and hook it up to a computer with a camera, and I don't know if you would need to go so far as to have like a pattern recognition device, but maybe you could just do it with just playback, watching the camera and whatnot. But build a really nice one, put a camera in there so you can actually videotape the tracks of the particles and record where the particles go, and then find like a very famously haunted location to where you know this activity is occurring, and then just put it in those areas. And so what I'm proposing, because this actually tracks allows you to visually see things on the subatomic scale. Hear me out. If you are actually, whenever these instances happen and you're peering back in time, this is just my idea, my thought about how this is, you're not only seeing the macro scale of what's happening when you're looking back in time, but you're also actually would be experiencing the subatomic particles that are going through. So when I saw Mary Catherine Cobb Sterling visually on a macro scale, I saw her body there, but like also when that's happening, there are particles flying through her body and around in the surrounding area. So if you put one of these devices there, all you would need to do, and because this is so random, it's so random that you would never have an instance where particles repeated their paths in a certain given time. But if this is actually what's happening, you could put this cloud chamber in these areas and just record. I don't know how long you'd have to record for to get something like this, but if you ever saw two different time frames that actually synced up and the particles looked like they were, like it was the same, like if you were filming one day and you saw what happened, and then like you filmed like however long it would take a day later or a week later or whatever, and it actually synced up, then you would actually, there would be some tangible like empirical proof to say, maybe not to prove that ghosts are real, but you could, it's
something's going on.
Something's going on.
And then anything beyond that, if it happens again, I mean, then it's almost guaranteed that something is happening.
You've got more evidence going along
something
that.
Like something's happening there, like a new phenomenon that would just open the floodgates of new research.
Yeah.
So that,
how hard would it be to build a portable one?
I have one that's like this. Like you can, okay, so honestly, you can. It's ridiculously simple to build one of these things. Like you can build one of these things with like a plastic cup and like some aluminum foil and like some dry ice. But I have, if you want to get like some really good ones, I have one that's, I don't know, 1.5 feet by, I don't know, a couple feet, like kind of like a little rectangle. And you can get some really cool, really significant streaks, and it's fascinating to watch because you're just watching like space, but there's like pew 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 pew, and it's really cool. It would be super easy to make one.
I'm gonna propose my theory: big bag of flour on the floor, footsteps.
Yeah. Well, people have done that with like supposedly like people who's like stall cars on train tracks, and they like put flout because there's like famous spots where people have like died on train tracks.
Right.
And then they like try, the kids like push them off and they get their fingerprints. I don't know how like
Right.
that is, but
Well, what I find really interesting about the whole thing of like seeing a ghost, maybe we're seeing them all the time and we're just not remembering it, is the times that we do remember seeing these things happen, it's because we're not necessarily expecting, but we're in a mindset of seeing something. So at work, we've had other things happen that we're like, well, that was weird. And so we're kind of, whenever we're there, we're always kind of in the mindset of like being open to seeing things that are supernatural. When me and Christopher went to Thistle and had our experience, we went there because it's kind of creepy. You know, you went to the most haunted place in America because it's the most haunted place in America. And so I wonder if that has something to do with it too, is that you're just already in an open mindset. And so you're more likely to have the chance, at least, of remembering parts of it because we heard the footsteps. And maybe we did see something, but we can only remember the footsteps.
Well, so that, I mean, that could go both ways. And in fact, that's one of the issues. Like, if you are expecting to see something, then you could trick yourself into seeing something.
Yes.
And that's actually one of the issues that I take with EVPs and like spirit boxes is that I think that there probably could be something there, but I think the vast majority of EVPs is just nonsense. Like, because you can like, it's just audio anomalies, and like literally spirit boxes are, from my understanding, is that they literally are just a radio that quickly like cycles through different AM frequencies, and like you could be picking up anything and when it's happening so quickly, like you could pick up like a word from like a song or like a word from like some talk show or different things like that. And the idea is that this actually helps spirits like gain the energy or whatever to manifest, because they can't actually talk through their own vocal cords because they're like not there, like they're ghostly, and they use this to help convey the ideas, how they're trying to communicate. But honestly, like I've actually sat and listened to like just long periods of times of EVPs, and what you'll notice even on Ghost Adventures, this is why like I'm kind of skeptical of Ghost Adventures, even though like I kind of believe them and want them to be believed, because that's a major part of what they do is they do EVPs and they do this spirit box. And one thing that they do is that they always like plant the seed, like, oh, they say winter, and then they play the clip, and then like you kind of hear winter. Whereas like I've like listened to these things and I'm not thinking of winter, I'm thinking of lager. Oh, and then I hear lager, and then it's like they can like, and then it's like they can kind of construct a sentence. Like they'll ask a question and then they have this audio anomaly, and it's like already in their mind, and then they think that's what it is.
It's like the classic, you play a certain song backwards, you hear it saying Satan 6666, you know.
Oh no, that's really
Sorry about that.
different episode.
Well, so I have an interesting, probably, I don't know, opposing point to that. So in the same scenario, when me and a group of friends went to the haunted restaurant, they had all that stuff, right? Because like I agree, most of it is just like, hey, look at this light's going off over here, and it's like, that's cool. But they had a voice box, and me and my sister were there, and with this whole group, and me and her were discussing something beforehand about a certain individual in a scenario. It's something that like, if it's going to be talked about, I want her to come talk about it because it was personal towards her, but it was really specific things. And
we'll talk to you about after the show.
But so what it is my sister was asking me, and I was like, asking about it, and I was like, well, like, I was saying the same thing. You were like, you'll hear what you want to hear, or you'll psych yourself out and hear something you don't want to hear, and it can all be like fake, and you can really like mess with your head a little bit. And so I was just like, take it with a grain of salt, like don't take it too seriously. And she was asking these very specific questions about an individual, and before we would say what we thought it was saying, we would ask the group, and they got it spot on to what the person every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do totally agree that you will hear what you want to hear. But that was one scenario that was super weird for me.
Yeah, we'll tell you the details once we turn off the mics here and see what you think about it. Because I've heard the story. I wasn't there. I've heard the story, and it's weird. It's weird.
I do agree. It's just like, hey, you want to see some lights turn on and off?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So I totally agree, though. That was one scenario that was very bizarre. Yeah.
Well, I mean, other than that, I mean, is there anything else you wanted to say about what you saw at Myrtles Plantation?
I think I've covered pretty much everything. I'll probably remember something after we turn the mics off, but I mean, I think that's about it. I mean, it really was. I guess the only other thing I would say about it, because prior to this, I've always been a believer in like these types of things. These type of like events is actually kind of like common in my family, and even just like hearing stories from like my grandparents. And actually we have in my family recorded documents of all sorts of weird stuff like this happening, which I could talk to you about later. But I had kind of different experiences throughout my life, but when I had this experience, it was like paradigm shifting. Like it truly is bizarre when you have to like grapple with this. And it's like, how I don't know how many hours I've spent trying to figure out how this could not be what I think it is. Like, I'm positive it wasn't like an actor, because like they would have had to like vanish the piano. And it's like, well, okay, going out on like because I mean, right, like Myrtles Plantation, like it's a business. Like you would think, well, they could be incentivized. Well, they are incentivized to like hype up this weird ghost stuff. And it's like, how are they trying to trick me? And I just want to make that clear, is I'm not like blindly like believing this. Like I have spent a lot of time trying to debunk my own experience. Even so much I thought, well, are they using holograms? Like, is that something they got like holographic projection set up there? And it's like, no, I really don't think they did that. Oh, one thing that I actually forgot to mention is that I was so astonished, like when I saw this picture and all these memories came back. I actually called them, and I pretended that I hadn't been there, and I was asking them about whether or not they actually, like, I was like, okay, this place is haunted, right? Like, and they're like, yeah, it is. We've got plenty of people who experience stuff here. And I was like, okay, but you, like, what? I was talking to this lady on the phone, and I was like, but you, what do you think? Like, do you really believe this place is haunted? And she was like, I really do. I've had plenty of experiences here. And I was like, well, right, okay, but like, you do things, right? Like, you have people, like, I really did this. It was so I was like, but you have people like kind of like walk around like, oh, come on, be real with me, I'm trying to figure this out. And she was like, no, I promise you, we do not have like actors or like set things up. And like, she was pretty convincing. And like, I finally admitted that I was there like the previous day, and I was like, well, I saw this woman like full on apparition, and she just got really somber, and she was like, yeah, you saw Mary Catherine Cobb Sterling. That's one of our most common ghosts that we have people report they see. And I was like, it's just crazy. Like, you really do have to grapple with it in like a different way, because it's like, well, I mean, I know 100% that there is more to this world than meets the eye, and it's like, it's a new horizon of things that still need to be figured out and discovered. And I think there's plenty of people trying to do it, but at the same time, that's why I created the Moonlit Ghost, is because there are also plenty of people who are trying to get views and just trying to hoax things for attention. So yeah, that's basically it. That's all I have to say, I think. So
That's awesome. We appreciate it. Go check out his YouTube channel at the Moonlit Ghost. Watch him his videos, give him a like, subscribe. It's really good. Anything else from you two over there?
I mean, last thing I would want to say is I had this thought earlier about the ghost adventures. I do agree with Jake that there is showmanship, but they also, the main guy, what is it, Aaron? He spends a lot of money into purchasing these paranormal like objects that are connected to like the paranormal, and he has a museum that he's very specific on, like what gets opened, who's allowed in, and he's also spent a lot of money in tearing down places that he believes is like portals to hell and stuff. So I think he takes it seriously, but I think you're right with the Travel Channel is like, come on man, let's see a little something. So I do highly recommend to go watch the episode, maybe even before listening to this, so that way you have a visual of what the place looks like.
For sure. And I do agree with that. I think you're right in the fact that he really does like believe this, and he takes it very seriously, and he's, for the most part, I really believe that he is trying to find the truth of the matter. So yeah, check the episode out, Myrtles Plantation. So
yeah, as always, do your own research, go on your own adventure, figure it out for yourself. It's fun. We love it.
Yeah, and also let us know what you want to hear. Like, we want to get enough where we can do like on-site investigation, so we can like actually debunk this instead of just talk about it. We want to put these theories to a test.
If you've got a ghost story from your personal life, reach out to us. We want to talk to you about it. So as always, we're going to lock this one in the crypt, Myrtles Plantation. And as always, we'll give you a little goodnight kiss. This one's from Chris, Tyler, and Jake.
You're not going to make me do that.
Hell yeah, Jake.
Kiss the mic.
See you guys. Peace. Are we done?
Yep.
Stopping it?
Yep.